Good evening, Dolphin fans. Happy New Year. Welcome to the premiere 2025 episode of the Fins Talk Overtime. I'm your host, Finn Stanza. With me always is Greg, and sometimes, but consistently, is Brett. What's up, gentlemen?
Hey!
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So it's a new year. It's 2025, and I just have the same message I've had for the last couple of years. All right, I just.
But let's, guys, before we start, I hope everyone had a wonderful, safe New Year. Welcome to 2025. We'll take a moment before we talk Dolphins to congratulate Greg and Brett. The playoff setup worked out very well for the both of you because both your teams, who were 7th and 8th seeds, are going to the semifinals. So congratulations to Ohio State and Notre Dame.
I actually just told my buddy who's a Notre Dame fan, I said that'd be an upset of the year if Notre Dame wins. Honestly, did not expect them to lose, Georgia to lose that game, but
Georgia did not look prepared.
It's like they just forgot they had a game.
Yeah. Do you think that game? Do you think the delay? I hope my prayers go out to all the families that lost loved ones. What's going on there is completely crazy. But did you think that the delay in the game had any effect?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't imagine something like that of that magnitude, not affecting people's thoughts or focus. I mean, I could guarantee that. So
yeah.
I'm not saying that's why a loss happened. I'm saying that there definitely plays a part, but both teams dealt with it too at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. But I think also when you look at the way the playoffs is now, a lot of the teams that are in it still, like you look at what Notre Dame did today, they're grateful to be there, right? Like they didn't cruise throughout the whole year where they were guaranteed to make the playoffs. If it was the old setup, they wouldn't be in the playoffs. The fact that they're now part of the new setup, they're like the Miami Dolphins right now. They're sneaking in. They're using the created new rankings.
But this is why you needed a playoff in college football. We needed it for years. And Ohio State versus Oregon never happens twice if you had the old way of system where we've already seen that. We don't need to see it again. Remember that? We had Alabama versus LSU as a rematch in the championship. And everybody's like, well, okay, we know they're the two best teams, but they would never want to do a rematch. This is why you need playoffs. Greg, I know you want to say something.
Go ahead, Greg. Congratulations on your Notre Dame team. What do you think about your Notre Dame team?
No, I agree. I don't know if there are 12 good teams or 12 championship-worthy teams within the college football on a year-in, year-out basis, but there was definitely more than 4. Okay, and just expanding the playoffs to give all these other teams some opportunity. And you know what? Screw the SEC, screw everybody else. Thinking that three lost teams should have got in over more deserving teams in other conferences. Yes, some of them got blown out, but the heck with that. That's what you're there for. You play the teams on your schedule. And because of the super conferences, now you can't play everybody in your conference. No, if you get the easier schedule, so be it. You won the lottery that year. All right.
Yeah.
Let them go to the playoffs. Let them have fun. And I've thoroughly enjoyed the playoffs, even the blowouts this year.
Yeah. Well, a buddy of mine family, remember all those years that UCF kept on going undefeated, and they gave them a chance and they got crushed, right? But you also have teams like TCU and you have UCF. Whenever they've had a chance, those type of teams end up getting their butts kicked.
Do you remember Boise State beating Oklahoma with Adrian Peterson? Oklahoma was a powerhouse that year.
Yeah.
And with the national championship, but that was still an upset. And I've been clamoring for a playoff for a long time. And it's something that a lot of guys have won it, coaches and all have won it. And they're like, Greg, this for sure. You played D3, coach D3. So, that's a huge bracket. And I used to intern with Wesley College in Delaware, and those guys are always in the playoffs. It's a huge bracket. But how come they could figure it out? D3, D2, FCS, they could all figure it out. In D1, it's because of money. Well, now that the way things are shaped up, it's great because now the parity is gone, or parity's there, depending on how you want to look at that. There's competitions flowing now. And Deion Sanders got to change some things. He had number 1 recruits going to an FCS school and then transferring to Colorado, not Alabama, not, because they want to play for prime. So the whole landscape's changing.
Well, everyone makes that prediction that the ACC is going to benefit from the fact that Belichick's now in that conference and the fact that he's going to put together a program there. Because if a parent wants their kid to have a chance to make it to the NFL, the fact that has a general manager, the fact that they're trying to build a professional program there, they're going to be able to get a lot of players through the transfer portal if they can try and do it.
And why did kids go to Alabama? Because of Nick Saban. I mean, that was the short and sweet of it. They knew they're going to get coached up.
Well, yeah, Texas, by the way, Texas played yesterday, everyone's giving Ohio State a big leg up to beat Texas.
Yeah. And Quinn Ewers, I'm not a fan of.
What's up, gentlemen?
Hey, guys, what's up?
You know what's interesting about Dive Bar? They get all these great people on the show, but they never invite us. It's really insulting. Insulting. They want to have an educated conversation. They have to invite the overtime crew onto their
Jeff
show.
Darlington, who is one of my favorite Miami Dolphin beat writers and one of the guys who's been on NFL Network. He's dialed in with Miami stuff, and one of the most I love him. Kind guys they interact with on Twitter. Wore their hat and all that, and they invite him on the pod. Listen, I'm no Jeff Darlington. I'm okay with not being invited. I'm just a guy.
But we're two wise men. Look at what we've done. Look at the guys. We're going to have a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk a little bit. We'll get back to other things, but we'll talk Dolphins. The one thing that was truly accomplished in 2024 is that these two guys took me from Homer to all the way down here. Look what's happened to Thursday nights. But honestly, I'm having more fun doing this. This is more fun. It's more fun.
I must be Darth Vader and Greg is the Sith.
It's awesome. Am I Chewbacca? What am I? But no. It's, by the way, honestly, though, let me ask you quickly, though, before we talk Dolphins, because it'll probably be a segue to – actually, I'll wait to segue Ryan Day a little bit. So, ironically, a couple of days ago, when we did our post-game show, Brett, you talked about how it would be fun to do a show comparing – 2019 to 2024. How ironic, because today, what happened, gentlemen? The Pro Bowls were announced. And for the fourth time in the history of the Dolphins, 1980, 1997, 2019, the year you want to compare, and this year, the Miami Dolphins have been completely shut out of Pro Bowlers.
Yep.
They have been not one. Jonnu Smith has gone out, opened his mouth, and basically said he got shammed. But when you have Kelsey, who's a guarantee, and Bowers had a rookie career for a tight end that no one's ever had, he's really insulted he didn't make it. But even if you look at the other years, they always threw Xavier Howard in there in 2018 and 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
Sorry, 2018, 21, 22. But how interesting that this team. We'll talk about the different levels of defense, offense, but what was your initial reaction to the fact that only the Jets, think about this, even the Giants, the Jaguars, all these teams, but the Jets, the Saints, the Titans, and the Dolphins were shut out. So what were your reactions to the fact that not one player on the entire Miami Dolphins team, probably will get alternates because of playoff seeding and all that not one Dolphin made the Pro Bowl? To both of you.
Go ahead, Greg. I'll let you take that one first.
The only one who played at a consistent high level all year long was Sealer. Okay, he probably is the one guy that got robbed, but nobody else deserved it. I mean, there's nobody on offense that stood out. All right, and you can say Jonnu Smith for Miami stood out this year, but compared to with his position with other people in the AFC, he's not a top two player. All right, you're not. Kelsey's going to go. Bowers is going to go. You could probably name another one or two of them who had equals years as well. So it's not surprising. And then defensively, Miami's defense has played well this year. They played well as a unit. Okay, as an entire unit. There's really only one player that stood out, and that's Sealer, and he's the one that probably got robbed.
I'll give Jonnu Smith a little bit of credit because I do think if you want to make an argument for anybody on our offense, it's Jonnu Smith. Nobody else on offense has played to that level. I know people are going to say A-Chan because he's got a touchdowns. Look, he's had a good year with touchdowns, but the only tight end that has more receiving yards in the AFC, let's see, you have –
it has to be Bowers.
Bowers he leads the league, 1144. Jonnu Smith is fourth in yards, 828. And he's if you were to go to receiving touchdowns, he's third in the NFL in touchdowns. But you know who's second? Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
Or first, Mark Andrews with 10, where Kittle has 8. So Jonnu Smith, and he's even tied. Well, he's second in the AFC. So yeah, I think the problem with the Pro Bowl is people vote for the popularity. So like the Dipod has pointed out here, he outperformed Kelsey. So yeah, Kelsey makes it on merit. I get it, and like stats, it's how he should have done this season, and how they do that season is how it should go. So we've always known the Pro Bowl can be a crapshoot with the fans voting and favoritism. So like you're right, like Kelsey's always a shoe in because of the popularity thing. So it sucks, and it's always been a popularity thing. But Jonnu is a good player, and I think he has every right to feel like he got shorthanded. So I feel like Jonnu has I think you can make a case for Jonnu if we're being fair. However, like you got Mark Andrews, you got Brock Bowers. So yeah, I get it. It's a log jam, and you can make a case. Sealer to me is the number one player on the team that should have made a case, and he won the team MVP. And there's a reason why. He does the dirty work that people aren't paying attention to. Part of the reason we have a pass rush, Calais Campbell and Sealer, who are doing all the dirty work to give all the one-on-ones outside.
Well, and he's even got really good stats for defensive tackle as well. So for an interior defensive lineman, Sealer should have went.
But if Chris Jones is there and that group is there, he ends up getting
correct.
Well,
I mean,
people have pointed out it's not who's the better player; it's who's having a better season, and that's something is very true. Right.
But it
sometimes relies on the record, but the fact that the Jaguars have
should
kickers,
be. I bet it should be.
But it happens in baseball too, right? Like we're just a segue. How many times have you looked at a lineup and like 4 of the 9 players on the field are of the same team just because it's a little bit of a popularity contest? But I believe it's actually
the team who's doing well is what you're saying. The team who's doing well
yes,
or has a strength in one side of the
unless you're dominating. For example, if let's say Jason Sanders didn't have a little bit of a hiccup at the beginning of the year, or the fact that the team wasn't 2-6, or the fact that he missed a few extra points, let's say he would have been perfect on extra points, and he probably would have gotten the nod in the AFC for the way he's been playing the last couple of games, the last 2 months. The problem is I think the offense last year having 1, 2, 3, I think they had 5 Pro Bowlers last year. On the offense, this is an indictment on Mike McDaniel and the offense. The fact that you don't have receivers who are probably going to hit 1,000 yards, the fact that you don't have anyone, you're relying on a running back who's acting more like a receiver. The fact that you didn't use Jonnu Smith for the first 4 games, that it's a little much. And like Greg says, and then I'm going to give Bobby kudos for doing this because I was going to look it up, but it's good for him. So far this year, if you want to give credit to Sealer, but the total defense right now is 3rd in the NFL. We're 9th in passing defense, 9th in rushing defense, 5th in third down defense, 8th in scoring defense, and 3rd in total defense. This is right now a team effort across all elements of this team. And that's what we've become. We have not become the team that's been built as a team, but we've been forced to play as a team. So that's what it is. Like we have a lot of star players who are not stars. So if Armstead didn't get injured this year, or Tua didn't get injured this year, or Mostert had the season he had last year, or Hill would have had the season he had last year, of course we'd have Pro Bowlers. But because they've been inconsistent, it's a little much. And guys, very important, Riley, Brett's beautiful daughter, wants you to like and subscribe. So I expect you to subscribe because I want more subscribers by the end of the show. So when we go on YouTube, Bobby and the Finstock Sports Network hits 2,000 subscribers. I keep on seeing 1.99. I want to see a 2K by the end of the night. I expect it. Get your friends, your families, your neighbors, your dogs, your pets, whoever you want, your turtles, your hamsters. I don't care who.
So my oldest daughter watches YouTube and watches these kids do all the little play, and she pretends to do YouTube channels with me. So I started recording stuff with her. So she started kind of doing stuff. So she'll always say, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the thumbs up. Make sure you share it, all that stuff. And I was like, man, I'm going to have her start doing it. She's a little too shy to jump on camera and do it, but she told me to remind you guys, subscribe, and share.
You just tell your daughter, if us 3 can appear on camera, look at us.
We have faces, the three most beautiful faces for radio.
This little girl looks like me, and she is beautiful. I don't know how it happened.
I don't know how that's possible.
She gets that from her mother. Thank you, Riley. We love you.
We love you, Riley. So, ironically, let's look. Okay, so Greg, you weren't there. You didn't have a chance, so we like to always do this. Brett was obviously there with us on Sunday, watching that game against the Browns. I know you were probably traveling a little bit. Did you have a chance to watch the game?
No, I watched the game.
You watched the game?
I actually watched quite a bit of it live, and then I caught the second, third, and fourth quarter live.
So, what was it like for you? Just a little bit of a recap on what your experience was watching that barn burner.
It was, the offense is so tailored around the strengths of Tua that you kind of have to take a step back. All right, you gotta take a step back, and you gotta reevaluate how you watch the game when Tua's not playing quarterback. And for the most part, I thought Huntley ran the offense well. He made good decisions, and he was able to make plays, extend plays with his legs. And against a team that has a Myles Garrett on the defensive line, you better be able to make extend some plays with your legs.
Robert Jones and Patrick Paul. Holy crap!
Yeah, it just. He played well. He played well, and for him to have the pass completion percentage that he did, in that game, facing the pressure that he did, he played a very good football game.
Dolphin. He's the first Dolphin to have over 85% completion percentage, over 200 yards passing, a rushing touchdown, a passing touchdown. By the way, had Tua had a game like this, the Tuanons would be sending him to Canton.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, I keep hearing that completion percent is the big deal, and let me tell you though, he knew where he ran to the weakness of the offensive line, but he knew where it was, and he knew how to run it, and he just is a natural runner, and he looked good in those situations.
He's an athlete. He's an athlete.
Well, and we have talked about this in maybe offline or on a show. I can't recall. I talk to you guys all the time. All right. But we talked about this where you have to identify the weakness in the protection and where the pressure is going to be coming from and anticipate where your escape route is going to be. Okay.
Sorry, that's the comment I was laughing at.
So, but
I love those guys.
Cold. It was 60 degrees. Cold. It was 60 degrees.
But that's what Huntley did, and you could see it. He anticipated where he was going to need to run and to avoid pressure. And again, it's a thought process for a quarterback. I am, and before anybody kills me, I am not saying he's a better quarterback than Tua. I am not saying that. But for one game, he played really well, and the offense was functional. And if you look, all right, I can't remember who did it on X, but somebody posted on X. He only had 4 passes basically at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage. That's the first time in like 2 months.
Yeah.
Or the last.
Achan was a ghost. Like, did you see? Yeah. Remember, you always said, I think a guy on this network, I think 2 people on this network used to say, if you get the ball to your playmakers, you might win some football games. Well, how many percent? Where was Devon Achan most of the game? On the sideline. Where was Tyreek Hill? 9 for 9. You happen to realize that? Tyreek Hill went for over 100 yards, 9 receptions.
And I trolled about it. I trolled about it, just having fun. I was like, oh man, Tyreek Hill's wrist is feeling a lot better. He's catching everything now.
Maybe it was where the ball was going.
But and I was joking. I was like, Tyreek Hill's not used to catching the ball in front of him. That's weird. But something's been off with Tua's placement a lot this year too. And I don't know what it is or what's going on with that. But I feel like things are a little bit different with the offense. But again, I'm with Greg. I'm not saying he's better than Tua. What I'm saying is it is nice to transition to a backup that keeps the things moving smoothly. And it feels like they're doing a lot better. Like it's the offense is not as complicated with the backup in now. Like it seemed like it was with Skyler. Of course, everything looked complicated with Skyler. I don't know. He started out looking good.
I was about to talk about this.
Yeah.
Kudos to Dive Bar because they reminded me, and I did watch their show with Dudley. I did watch their show. I do watch their show. It's very entertaining. I'm waiting for my invite one day in 2045. I don't want to cut their subscribers. Did you happen to notice that he even said there was a notice that they had 2 playbooks, they merged them together, how much better the offense ran, that they were actually getting to the line of scrimmage, not with 5 seconds left, with like 10 to 15 seconds left, and they cut the goddamn motions out. How much simplified the offense was?
Jesus.
What did you guys think of that?
No, exactly, and we've been talking about it for over a year, about how, if Tua used the motions and the shifts and everything else as a crutch to help him read the defenses, being 5 years in now, he shouldn't need that often,
Right.
and just getting to the line of scrimmage, seeing what the defense is doing, changing the play, changing the protection, and not have to worrying about all the motions and shifts, giving them time, give the quarterback time to recognize what's going on.
That
It's a benefit.
right.
Yeah, just
And
line
like
up, play football. Exactly.
and it could be one of those things too. And I was as a parent, like where I'm holding my daughter's hand to make sure I'm doing anything, and she's like, "Daddy, I could do it by myself. Leave me alone." It's a me thing, not a her thing. Where I'm like, she can do it on her own, but I'm like doing the parent, like, let me do it. It almost feels like that with McDaniel, where it's like, could it be where Tua no longer needs that and needed that at first, and now it's like, okay, I don't need that. Give me time to process, because we saw the clips of him saying, it's like, all right, crap, I don't have enough time to snap. I see that, like, okay, this is coming. I'm reading off of this. I got to get the ball snapped no matter what now. So could that be a McDaniel thing where he needs to like back off of that for Tua as well? Or does Tua still need it? We don't know. It feels like,
By the way, that creates. But don't you both agree, being the analysts that you both are, that that's where the pre-snap penalties happen? They're just it's like you have to stay still for so long,
right.
because you're waiting for the receiver to cross over in front of Tua, and then Brewer's waiting, snapping the ball. The people, it's all like, it's too dramatic, it's too theatrical.
I also think
and it's more for huff and puff. It's smoke and mirrors versus just playing football.
That and guys constantly coming in and out, formation, like always constant change of personnel. And I'm all right with changing personnel, but then you're expecting, okay, we're changing personnel. Okay, you were the X on this one, now you're the Y. All right, so now you're motioning. You got to stop. So it's just a lot to remember, and it's like you're constant changing it all. So the motions and stuff, slow it down a little bit. Like, stop. You don't have to do it all the time. Greg and I were talking back when, I don't know, it was when Flores wanted to hire McDaniel or interview him, or when McDaniel was being interviewed for the head coach job. But Greg and him and I were talking, and he had said that the Shanahan system is a lot of smoke and mirrors. That's what you see with it. And his whole thing before the Dolphins even took a snap under McDaniel was, what the Shanahan system is known for, smoke and mirrors. Okay, but what happens when the smoke and mirrors are taken away? Can you line up and play football? And we haven't seen that from the Dolphins, and yet we saw that last week. So it's like, guys like Jonnu Smith on their own. Yeah. And like,
that's why they run to the sideline.
Yes.
Yes. They're 100% right. That's why on the second third down, when they're running they're running these routes,
right,
these go routes, they're exhausted.
And deep in the drive, when him and Waddle are pulling themselves out. Maybe that's why, because they're running sprints. For what they're doing, they're not getting the ball. They're basically running punishment for like what you do for, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying. So like, for me, it's like, I think this might be a coaching issue that needs to be really.
He's still a rookie. He's still learning.
Yeah, it's like he needs to figure that out, and I think he needs someone on his staff to say, "Hey, cut that out. We don't need that." Like, Jonnu can create mismatches on his own. He's hard to cover by himself the way they're using him. Tyreek's hard to cover. Just let them win. Let them beat their guys. Let your guys do their job that you pay them to do.
Because
don't get me started on the whole blocking system. Because
the scheme. Yeah, we talked about that on Sunday. But Greg, I want maybe to jump on what before we talk about the comparisons between year over year, and then we'll talk about the game this Sunday. The whole scheme, that offensive line, HN averaging 2 point under, I think it was 2.3. Mostert had 0.5. Like, he had half a yard on average. Like, it was really something. What is up with this scheme that is just so putrid that they can't create any balance with the run and the pass?
It's an issue we've always had.
Good, Greg. I know you gave your perspective, Greg. I don't want you to add to it, Greg, but Greg, what was your perspective when you were seeing the fact that literally we were always behind the line of scrimmage? Every time we ran, we lost yardage. Every time we got the ball, we lost yardage.
So the defensive ends in the NFL right now are so good and so fast, all right, that if you cannot block the edge and they're constantly collapsing inside, all right, it's hard to have a run game when they're constantly doing that. you need good blocking tight ends to run outside zone, or you can do what what Detroit does and basically play with 6 offensive linemen, a lot. All right, and basically when they bring in that 6 offensive linemen, they make Sewell essentially a tight end. All right,
Who else was doing that a lot? Was it the game on Monday?
the
Yeah, it
game
was the
Monday
game on
night. The
Remember
Detroit does
Patriots?
that a lot,
Yeah,
They do a
Patriots are doing
lot.
that a lot.
huh?
Yeah. The Patriots did that a lot for,
Oh, yeah.
for a
And we
stretch
asked
there.
McDaniel. They once asked McDaniel when they were at the goal line, like, why don't you bring in Patrick Paul or bring in someone to push the ball in 4 times with either Milson or
Right.
in goal? And they said, we're not set up. We're not built that way.
So a lot. What I see is a lot of we are set up to be an outside zone team. All right, that's basically a personnel thing.
Yeah.
We don't have big, powerful running backs to run out inside constantly. So we want to run outside zone. And Ingold is not having as good a year as he did last year. And our tight ends, basically, I think defenses went to school on us over the summer and basically said, we need to attack the tight ends in the run game.
Oh, come on. Brett was bragging how good Durham Smythe was last year. Come on. How great of a blocker he was.
That's what kills me. He's been so average his entire time.
How he ever went with Gesicki to Cincinnati, I don't know. You should follow him along.
But I think that's what's affecting the run game. And then we have our guard play is not great. Our center play is okay in the run game. And now that we're playing backup tackles, it's basically it's just it's a shit show on the offensive line, and it's just really hard to do. Yep. And if you cannot secure the corner, if you cannot secure the edge, and you guys keep getting blown up, and outside guys want to run outside and don't know what to do, they can't cut back. Your running game is going to look like this.
And they can't keep scheming it, because when they scheme it, all that's going to happen is it's going to be the same issues we ran into last year, where defenses are just going to play zone. They're just going to play discipline and stay at home, and they're just going to take everything away. It's the same thing the Chiefs did to us. Like, they just took all that away, bump and run, disrupt timing, and then it was like, so that just became the same defense play against the pass. It won't change. And the thing is, too, like, I've been saying this for a while. The Patriots always had a run game, and to your point, Greg, about tight ends, they had guys like Brandon Maluina, they had Kyle Brady, they had Jermaine Wiggins, they had Daniel Graham, Rob Gronkowski, every single guy. And there's a longer list of that. Even Hunter Henry, before Belichick left, they still have him. It's a long list of tight ends who are known to be block first guys, kind of like what they do in Detroit. And Greg, I sent you a clip of offensive line coach, I believe it was 5 Reasons Sports Hour, having a conversation back and forth where I said there's a cutback lane that you're telling me they usually read the tight end on an outside zone. But even so, if the tight ends collapse, your eyes should be looking back. And I always felt like a good running back should be able to find a cutback lane, whether it's designed or not. But to me, a zone running attack, you should be teaching your backs to look backside or look for a cut lane, not bounce it. And none of our backs are really good at that. I feel like Wright kind of is, but I don't really feel like he's natural at it. So I feel like that's where we're really lacking on running backs, because I just watched Jahmyr Gibbs do that. And I showed you the clip where the center gets pushed. Obviously, Detroit's offensive line is better, but like the lanes were there in Miami. The center and left guard did their job enough. And Eichenberg still gets crushed no matter what, but there's enough lane for a fast running back to get. So, like Jahmyr Gibbs,
I think you posted it.
Yeah.
Him falling on his ass.
Oh, yeah. But the tight end
always falling. Like, he literally has no balance.
He has terrible feet. He has terrible feet, terrible hands.
Feet. He gets overextended and he doesn't bring his feet a lot, and basically that a bad center of gravity, and he gets knocked over quite a bit.
And he's not that. I don't know if he's that strong, to be honest with you, but not functional anyway. So
he's back in the day we used to call him high hipped. He plays too straight legged, and when you play at that, when your hip level is that high and you take long strides like he does, you're going to get knocked off of balance.
It's also that's my concern with with Paul as well. Although he's flash moments where he looks good, and other moments where he's
So-
too high. But he's young; he's going to develop. He just worries me with his bend.
Well, but he's also an offensive tackle.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
you can
that's
play higher as an offensive tackle because
That's
you're not
true.
going up against a 300-pound defensive tackle.
That's true.
Who's basically going to get under you anyway. I mean,
Right.
when you're blocking 240, 250-pound guys at that size, it's different than blocking a 300, 320-pound guy.
But to me, it goes back to like those guys. They're getting destroyed, but guards are going to have to pull. They're going to have to move. They're going to have to reach. Like you're going to have to be able to move in the NFL. That's it. You're not just always going to block straight up and gap block your entire career. So you're going to have some type of athletic ability. I really think they do need to move on from Eichenberg, but he was a career pick, so we know he'll get an extension. But I read a report that that McDaniel did not want to move or did not want to start Eichenberg. He wanted to start Robert Jones. So it seems like he wanted to start at right guard. But I just feel like the offensive line, while it's a problem, it's not the only problem. It's just at this point, it's kind of a train wreck. And the coaching, to me, is a problem. Every single offensive lineman, Brewer, the exception, and Armstead, he's always hurt, though. They all look like they're not all that well coached. Like the rest of them just don't seem to have good technique or anything.
It's not a cohesive unit right now.
No.
And you can kind of say that that's due to injury, that's due to different people playing at different positions, not enough practice time, so on and so forth. But every team in the league's dealing with shit like that right now.
Yeah, right.
All right, and it's got to be beyond that because you see fundamental things going on. Just hand placement. Sinking your hips, doing different things that they just don't do very well. And I don't know. I thought for a run blocking team, I thought they played their worst game against Cleveland.
Yes.
They
That
were
was the worst I've
not.
ever seen them play.
They were not playing well. Other games where they didn't run the ball well, I didn't think it was much on the O line. I was more critical of the backs and tight ends and things like that.
Yeah.
This game, this Cleveland game was like, the offensive line run blocking was pretty bad.
Yeah.
So,
And a lot of guys blame the offensive line first, and it's like, well, the back kind of hesitates or the back hit the wrong hole, and it's like a lot of times our backs are not consistent. Achane is not consistent,
No.
and I don't think there's an Achane fan that should be saying, "Oh no, he's a good back, he's elite." Listen, I know he's a good back. He, like I said countless
He's a
times,
good weapon.
right? He has a good role in his team, and I love it. I love having a guy like that, but I'm glad they didn't stick with him in Cleveland. But at the same time, listen, them going with Achane on short yardage against certain teams, they're basically saying the offensive line is not our problem. Like we need to, it's fine. That's why they went to different backs and bigger backs because the offensive line was getting destroyed. They needed the backs that could handle the bruising. So
I'll trigger you, DSB. No, I will trigger you.
But here's the thing, like run game, like you said, it's not cohesive. But I went to Eagles training camp years ago. The buddy of mine was an Eagles fan. Summertime's not much to do around here, and it wasn't far from here. It was always a good time. And I'd watch how Andy Reid would run his units. There's a reason Andy Reid's offensive line, even when they're injured, are always good.
Yeah, it's not great this year, but he makes it work.
No, but what he did was in camp, he had 1s, 2s, and 3s. Everybody was getting first team reps and rotating, and guys who could be like, okay, hey, we've had injuries here and here. I'm going to plug you here, see how you do, plug you here, see how you do. And then he's like, has the offensive line coach and him coaching a couple of the guys up because he wants to see how you do, and he knows offensive linemen can get hurt. And here's the deal. You have 5 starting offensive linemen. A lot of times you have 2, maybe 3 backup offensive linemen all season. Those 3 backups, they better be able to plug and play at different positions, right? So that's what he's doing is getting them. So they're always getting reps with first team. So they're always a unit. It's never like so when someone goes down, boom, someone comes right back in, and even if they have to shuffle, they're still good. And that's the thing where Andy Reid always does that. Like good coaches do that. Patriots did that for years. Like the Dolphins, I don't know what they do in practice, but whatever their coaching is doing, it's not working. But I wasn't a fan of Butch Berry anyway. I mean, he's never been regarded as a highly respected offensive line coach, though. That's
So before you guys move on, I think one of the main topics that I wrote as the topic of the show today, because we had talked about it, was that 2024 feels a lot like 2019. Yes, we didn't make the team in 2019, but it feels like we're playing for next season again, and we're sort of in that rebuild again. To give you, Brett, I'll give you the floor because I know a lot of it was a little bit coming from you, a little bit. But we started off 0-7, finished 5-11, so we actually finished with a winning record.
Yeah.
Tell me what you see as the true similarities, or what do you see better? Because the one key stat I'm going to let you both know is that the Dolphins, unless they get about 300 or so yards and like 300, I think it's about 300 something odd yards against the Jets, they will have less yards in 2024 than they did in 2019. Think about that stat. But I let you and Greg have the floor, whatever you want to talk about. But tell me what you see as similarities between the beginning of this rebuild with Greer to where we are now.
And real quick, Dibar, I didn't disrespect him. I just said that he's inconsistent, and I said he's not elite. That's all.
I said he's a weapon. He's a great third wide receiver. He's a shitty running back.
I wouldn't say shitty running back. He's
averaging. No.
He's not a good starter. He's not a good starting running back. And I've said that for a while.
In the last 6 or 7 games, he's averaging under 2.3 yards a carry. I don't care what your offensive line does.
Someone noticed.
2.3 yards a carry? Are you kidding me? They sat him most of the game last game because it wasn't working.
I think they're doing him a disservice starting him, just like with Kamara. You wouldn't want to start Kamara either. That's just me. So here's the thing.
Go.
All right. So about 2019. The similarities are, I'll tell you what's similar to that is the defense being banged up, the defense missing pieces, being like backup rotation at off defensive end, like making it work. Linebackers getting like running through linebackers after David Long, Walker's being hurt, and then we signed oh my god, I can't even think of his name now. The dude from Seattle. Not Brooks. Yeah, the one that we picked up. And it got 2 interceptions. He had an interception this week.
Oh, Dobson.
Thank you. Sorry, drawing a blank on that one.
Wait, there's actually players outside of the Miami Dolphins drafting that actually can tackle.
Right, weird.
Isn't it interesting? We have to go get players who learn how to tackle. We can't draft them.
But the defense, once again, has been like the keeping games tight for us, keeping games close. Rotation at quarterback. This is what the 3rd, 4th quarterback that started the game. So.
Yeah, because Boyle only came in. Yeah.
Right. So it feels like they have the similarities are rotation at quarterback, whether it be due to injuries or whatever. Offense being inconsistent, being able to run some weeks, being able to throw some weeks, and then just like being a dud the other weeks. Just disjointed offense. How about that? Just like the whole offense feels disjointed. Even though it's like this is their 3rd year in the system, everything feels disjointed about this offense this year. Nothing feels right anymore. Like everything feels laboring. Everything feels like they're struggling.
It looks exhausting. Don't they look?
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like they're working their asses off just to be average in some points. Against Buffalo, like they had one fumble with Mostert, and that like killed the game. Like the safety against Arizona, that killed the game. Like it's one incident on offense, one bad part on offense, and all of a sudden everything unravels. And like it took us to overtime to beat the Jets, and it just feels like the offense is just laboring, and it feels like just a mix of offensive coaching issues. It feels like a mix of player issues, offensive line issues, like all of that, running back issues. Just feels like that's where it feels like a 2019. And I know, but I'll give McDaniel his credit. He's close to another winning record, a 3rd one in a row. And I know, like, hang the banner for winning records, but I would give him at least credit to where he's like kept it glued together for as long as he could and kept it pushing. And so I'll give him the credit there. It's just. It's still not enough. This is year 3, and we haven't won anything.
Greg, what do you see as similarities between 2024 and 2019?
So the 2019 team basically played 16 games. We're 16 games through here right now. Okay.
Yep.
2024 has scored 19 more points than the 2019 team.
Yeah.
All right. You look at the players.
Preston Williams.
Devontae Parker.
You look at the players on 2024 compared to the players on offense in 2019, it should be night and day. Yet they've only averaged a little over one more point per game so far, equal to equal.
The
All right.
Van Noy one's the one that hurts.
Yes.
That,
You said,
Van Ginkel, that hurts. Sorry.
Evan, you said that, they needed 300 and some odd yards, to match next year. They have more yards, total yardage right now than they did in 2019, a couple hundred. Okay. It's about 15 a game, a little bit less than 15 a game. All right. But they don't have as many pass yards.
Yeah, that's
all
true.
right.
Pass yards, yeah.
They have about 500 more rushing yards. Okay. So overall.
Yeah, because trivia question. Who was our running back in 2019?
Miles Gaskin.
And
who? What?
I don't know.
You remember the other guy? Who was his backup? Who was his second?
Wasn't that Savan Ahmed?
No.
Oh no, he was 2020, wasn't he? I don't even remember now.
Alan Balaj.
Oh fuck.
Oh Jesus.
That's what I'm talking about. That's how featured our run game was.
But so as a whole, we averaged about 15 more yards per game this year compared to 2019. But here's the kicker, okay? We're averaging about 10 more penalty yards per game this year than we did then. So net, we're about 5 yards better. The difference in record between 2024 and 2019 is the defense. The defense gave up 10 more points a game.
Yeah.
All right. Than they are in 2019 compared to this year. All right.
Yeah.
But the opponents were significantly better in 2019 than 2024. 2024, our schedule's about as weak as it can get. All right, when it's all said and done. And a lot of people are saying it might be the softest schedule in the NFL this year, based on win-loss percentage, records and stuff like that. I have never seen I could never have imagined that your 2024 team would struggle this much throwing the football.
Yeah.
Even with a backup quarterbacks, even playing 4 quarterbacks this year, I that blows me away. With the talent on offense and the talent at the pass catching positions compared to 2019, to have 250 yards less, not as many touchdowns as 2019, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And not to take anything away from Fitzpatrick. Yeah.
What?
Not to take anything away from Fitzpatrick, because Fitzpatrick, did a good job, but like that team was so depleted of talent on purpose, and Flores, that should be an asterisk. That record shouldn't count. The losses shouldn't really count for him. You should look at the point differential, then you should the record that year, because his teams fought and scrapped, and they never looked like a team that was just like, oh, they're gonna quit. And, like they look like a team that was just keep going, to keep fighting. And to me, I had hope in 2019. I had hope in 2020 with Flores. I lost hope after the 2020 draft because Greer just botched that whole thing. And I was like, how do you have all these picks? You screwed that up. And then you go to 2021 and you screw that up, trading up and all. So I started losing hope. But then in 2022, I still didn't have hope, right? I didn't feel excited. In 2019, the reason I had hope is because the team was disciplined. They were coached, they were physical, they would fight, they were on the way to what you would think, and they could scrap when they went toe to toe with the Eagles and beat them. And the games that they won were not games that like you're like, oh well, wow, congratulations, beat a bad team. No, they could go toe to toe with a good team, or at least like show some fight against them. And then in 2020, like they showed more fight for the most part against good teams. Hell, Thursday night against the Ravens, they won. And all of that was a lot of coaching and defense and the way they overcame on the defensive side. So it's like this team, again, the defense is been your bread and butter, because the defense has given up 30 points 3 times. Not 4, like I originally had said, it's 3 times because the offense gave up points. And Arizona, everybody said, well, the defense gave up 29. No, they didn't. The offense gave up 2 of those 29 points. The offense scored 27. Arizona scored 27, and the offense gave up 2 points. So the offense lost in that game because their defense only gave up the same amount that the offense gave up, or the offense scored, and the offense gave up 2 points. And I'm just saying, like, the offense has been a problem And real quick, the offense they've spent $109 million on the offense, or 107.8 or something like that. They spent $80 million on the defense, like $84 million on the defense. That's a $20 million difference, almost a $25 million difference. And the defense is one of the best in the NFL. Offense is at the bottom.
And
of the
I
NFL.
would say the defense, the way it was built this year, was built to be worse than last year.
And here's the kicker: overall, not active. Active is only like $50 million spent on the defense right now with players on it that are
Yeah,
playing.
there's no Chubb, no Phillips,
Right. Everybody playing.
no Fuller.
Overall, they spent $100 million in that defense, and half of it's not even playing, and they still are better than the offense. The offense. So I don't want to hear the injuries in the offense or nothing.
Well,
so, I mean,
I was more excited. Greg, go. I was honestly, if I look back on it, I was more excited to watch Fitzpatrick than I am to watch Tua this year. Like
I agree.
It's sort of like when you play basketball. It's a lot more entertaining when someone's playing man than when they're playing zone, right? It's a little more boring. Or in hockey, I'm a hockey fan. The way a lot of these teams used to win Stanley Cups and win championships is they played trap and they would win games 1-0. The Dolphins are trying to win games by boring you to death on offense. They're hoping they put the defense to sleep with the penalty. Like, that's what I think. Like, I found more excitement with 2019, hoping that they actually might pull something off. If they lost, at least it was exciting. They did their best. They tried. It was a bunch of nobodies. But Greg, what do you think?
No. 2019 had very low or zero expectations. So anything that you saw that was dynamic, that was exciting, and things like that, that was just a bonus. Okay, you were happy to see it because your expectations were low. The 2024 Dolphins expectations were sky high, all right, because they came off a really good year in 2023.
Yeah,
right. I mean, they averaged 10 more points a game, than what they're doing this year. You had Tyreek Hill, you had Jalen Waddle, you had Jonnu Smith come in. You have these players who are good, who are really, really good in a lot of instances. And they're boring as hell. They're not doing anything. The expectations up here and the performance is way down here, and you're like, what the hell? And to go through 16 weeks this year and compare it to 2019, and they're basically right on top of each other.
Yeah.
With the amount of talent on 24
Or the other one's talking about
compared to the 19, it is just simply amazing. Yeah. And look, I think Weaver has done a great job with the defense this year. Okay. But I put this caveat on it. They have played a lot of bad quarterbacks.
Yes.
Okay. They have taken advantage of it, and they've beaten the hell out of.
But that's their job, right? They're supposed.
That's their job. You play who's on your schedule. You play the quarterback that you play. All right. I'm not going to hold that against them. This is not a great defense, in my opinion.
No,
it's a good defense.
Here's the thing: they're overachieving for what they are.
It's a good
just
enough
like 2019.
It's a good enough defense to win if your offense is good.
Right.
And the offense was supposed to be good this year, and it's not.
Can you name me how many defenders outside of Chop Robinson on this defense that we actually didn't trust? Campbell, to a free agent. Sealer, cut and signed. Ramsey, traded for. I'm not going to talk about Poyer. Fuller, we got. Duck, undrafted free agent. Didn't even draft him. We just picked him up for nothing. Kohu, picked him up for nothing. Brooks signing. Dobson signing. Walker signing. Like, no one on the defense except for Robinson is actually a draftee. The defense is, there's no one on the defense that belongs
the other
to
one
the
that was is hurt.
We rent all of our players.
Well, the other one did get hurt in Phillips, but
but Phillips, he never should have come back when he did.
But your point still stands.
Yeah.
And this is Greer's issue. Why, Evan? Why is that? Now,
you gotta evaluate talent.
Right. However, Greer made the right choice to not overpay Wilkins, let him get
Yeah,
paid somewhere else. That was a right move, and he signed Calais Campbell. Good job, Greer. You signed a guy who is a better pass rusher than Wilkins, just as good of a leader, if not a better leader, still an effective ball player, very good player, and has done a phenomenal job. And Zach Sealer was every bit as good as Wilkins, in my opinion, who puts up better numbers and is a lot cheaper. Congratulations, Greer. Smart move. Robert Hunt, smart move. Don't overpay interior offensive linemen. You don't need to throw all your money there. Smart move. However, where he screwed up was he didn't have a replacement plan. His replacement plan was Liam Eichenberg, who he knew is not very good, but it was his draft pick. You know who
he traded up for?
Right, 2 picks for. And then he missed out on the chance to get Justin Jefferson. Like Greg keeps saying, a lot of us were calling for Justin Jefferson in that pick. He takes Austin Jackson. Austin Jackson's been a solid right tackle, but Justin Jefferson has been an all-pro elite wide receiver. So he goes out and trades up for Waddle the next year, and then trades for Tyreek the year after that. He gave up, I think I figured out, what did I say, 5 or 6 picks for those guys?
Yeah.
Gave up picks for Chubb. Why? Because he keeps missing, and this is all like Greg and I talked about years ago. Like, Greer always misses. So that's why a lot of our talent is rented, why a lot of our talent is older. Why is our talent older this year? Why do we have Poyer starting safety? Because we didn't have the money to sign anybody else, because we threw money at Waddle. We restructured Tyreek. We paid Tua. We didn't have to pay Tua. He's on a 5th-year contract. So we extending him was dumb anyway. So I would have just let him on a 5th year. That if he did stay healthy, the franchise tag him and trade him or something. But 2026, I'm going after a quarterback anyway. So
how would our defense be if Brandon Jones and Deshaun Elliott were still at safety?
I don't know. I don't think
better. Would it be better with those two?
I like Brandon Jones, but the only issue I had with him is he was out of place a lot. But I think he'd be better than Poyer. A better tackler than Poyer.
Oh, Poyer can't tackle for nothing.
All right, the run defense would have definitely been better.
Oh, for sure.
Safety. But Holland is just awful this year.
Oh, what would bother you more? Him the Dolphins re-signing? This is a very easy one. Actually, it's a tough one. Them overpaying for Holland, or them re-signing and extending Eichenberg?
Oh, Eichenberg is still pissed me off more, because at least Holland, you might be able to fit him into a system on defense. I don't think Holland's a terrible talent. Or Eichenberg, I just don't think is very good at football at all. I always joke that he's going to be a future cut candidate in the CFL.
Hey, bring him to Montreal. I'll watch him in the CFL. Yeah, no, we all talked about Malachi Starks is the one defensive player at safety in the secondary that we'd be okay with.
I'm not a big draft safety early guy, but Malachi Starks affects the football, and he was
good today. That's the reason why they lost.
So he finds the football, makes plays. He picks the ball off Malachi Starks.
He's a ball hawk.
And when you watch defense, real quick, Greg, when you watch defensive players in college, if they find the football, they're going to do it in the NFL. Adrian Van Ginkel was found in the 5th round, was picked up in the 5th round. All he did every game was find the football. Those guys just love football. Sorry, Greg.
Go ahead, Greg. You're on.
No. So when you're looking at DBs, I don't care if they're a cornerback or they're safety. All right. If they're ball hawks, you draft them in the NFL.
Right.
Wide receivers, okay? You better get separation in college when you're a wide receiver. If you can't separate in college, you're not going to separate in the NFL. Don't draft those guys.
It doesn't matter how fast your 40 is.
It doesn't matter how fast your 40 is or anything like that. All right? You got to create separation. And that's why I've hated some of the Dolphins' draft picks at wide receiver over the years, is because you watch their college tape. Well, they make contested catches in college. All right.
Yeah.
You know, you can't do that all day long in the pros. All right. It's different. Okay. And I got in an argument with this guy a while back. He was talking about, why aren't more offensive guards drafted from college? I'm like, because they're offensive tackles in college. They got to be able to move. They got to be able to do things. I go, if you draft a defensive tackle, he better win like 90% of the time, because the offensive guards in college football aren't good enough to play in the NFL. If you get blocked by an offensive guard in college, you can't play.
Like a lot of the guys who are being drafted now or that are good end up playing guard in the NFL are centers or tackles.
Correct.
Like that guy, I always said to them, the one guy I would have been okay with besides Chop Robinson was outside Brian Thomas and all that group was Graham Barton, because the one thing about Graham Barton, what has been good about him is that he could play. He was a Swiss Army knife on the O line at college. Right. He played at Duke. He played guard, but I wouldn't have drafted him as a guard. I would have drafted him as a center because he played center. And I would have played Brewer. If I drafted him, I would have put Brewer at left guard, and I would have played him at tackle.
Isn't Barton playing tackle right now?
No, he's the starting center for the Bucs.
Oh, center. That's right.
He was the starting center for the Bucs because they knew what they had in him. He's athletic, and he can call the game because he's a Swiss Army knife on the offensive line.
Well, that's the thing.
He made Baker Mayfield's life very easy to this year.
Sackman said that he always missed on a Tyndall pick. Yeah, exactly. It took him over Leah Chanel. Took Eichenberg over Creed Humphrey. Traded up for Eichenberg. Creed Humphrey's on the board. So there's a lot of misses with Greer, and this is the problem that we run into. This is the issue.
So we're going to lead into that topic now. For regular,
it's
rumblings are this week. Everyone's doing shows since we had our pregame show. The rumblings are from Albert Breer that Mike McDaniel is safe, but that doesn't mean Chris Greer is.
And I don't even know if he said McDaniel was safe. He just said he's hearing rumblings about the front office
right now. So what are your both reactions? Is that just fodder, or do you really think that they'll actually consider another half measure and actually pull the trigger on one? Could you actually see them only pull the trigger on one?
Absolutely.
Could they get actually a decent candidate?
No.
To come work with McDaniel?
No, because the problem is, it's what I keep saying. The half measures have been the problem. They keep firing the head coach, keep the GM, vice versa. They keep doing this. It's a stupid cycle. And then Greer has been at the center of it. Keep firing coaches, but keeping him. Firing him, I like McDaniel. I think he has a bright future, and he might be a good head coach again someday. I don't think you're doing yourself a favor by doing that, because you're going to bring in a GM. The GM is going to say, well, I want my own head coach. Unless you're going to make McDaniel the VP like Andy Reid is, which I think better teams usually do that. Like good teams with good coaches do that. Sean Payton, Andy Reid, there's a long list of coaches.
Bill Belichick.
Right, yeah. So the thing is, I don't think you need to do that McDaniel unless there's a well-known talent evaluator like I wanted Peters, who's now in Washington. Unless there's a well-known talent evaluator with one of the teams that was with the Shanahan system where Kubiak, I don't think it's going to work. You're not going to find someone willing to work with. I don't know. Maybe you will. I don't know. It depends on how they feel about it around the NFL.
Greg,
if you make the GM that you hire consider Mike McDaniel, it's a failure.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Just like McDaniel had to take the defense coordinator, special teams coordinator.
Correct. And if it's a stipulation that you can only have the job if you keep Mike McDaniel, it's the same old thing. You're just painting over all the flaws. The problem with the Dolphins is they need a new philosophy. The philosophy is all wrong. How to build the team is all wrong. I don't care if it's Chris Greer making the decisions how to build the team or Mike McDaniel. Mm-hmm. They got to work as a team. They got to have the same collective vision for this to work, and it doesn't. And we've seen it now for 3 years, and replacing one but keeping the vision isn't going to work. I say it all the time. If the philosophy is flawed, no matter how well you execute it, you're not going to succeed. And the philosophy is flawed.
Right.
You can't keep going down this path and just keep changing people without changing the overall philosophy. And that's what happens when you hire one and not the other. So, I don't even care if you fire both of them and bring 2 of them in at the same time. Okay. Yeah. They got it. The thought process, everything has to be different.
I know the game ball is the same.
Yeah. And they have to, that's true. They have to be cohesive. And the thing about McDaniel is that people I don't think give him enough credit for. And Greg, I think we talked about this a couple times. Greer has the philosophy of drafting the wrong players, he still does, but wrong positions. And then McDaniel comes in and is like, stop throwing all these resources at the offensive line. And before you all like, our offensive line sucks. Yeah, because Greer picked the wrong players. But look at all the picks and money he's thrown at the offensive line. Austin Jackson in the first round, 2 picks for Eichenberg, a second and a third, because he traded up for him. Second round for Robert Hunt. He's taken multiple offensive linemen. I think I had found out since Flores, he has taken 10 offensive linemen. That's not counting all the way to 2016. So he's drafted offensive linemen. Don't forget Dieter and Tunsil. He's taken offensive linemen. It's just he's taking the wrong ones. And McDaniel's like, stop putting your resources in that. The problem where I give McDaniel credit is where I say it's not his fault is that Greer's like, okay, I'll put a premium on the pass rushers. Like McDaniel said, he would draft a pass rusher every year. That's smart. That's good football. Draft pass rushers. They affect the quarterback, or find them, add them. He said he'll add pass rushers every year if he can. Greer forced Eichenberg, if that report was true, which I believe it makes sense. It's his guy, right? So you're forcing Eichenberg to work when McDaniel's saying, hey, Robert Jones, I think is better. He was undrafted free agent. Let's use him. Oh, no, we have to have Eichenberg. So he's handcuffing his coaches to where the only thing I can see working is if a GM comes in and says, I'm willing to keep, or I'm going to keep McDaniel. Now, if a GM comes in and you give the GM to say, hey, it's your choice. What do you want to do with McDaniel? Do you want to fire him this year, or do you want to evaluate him for a year and then bring your guy in? That I can accept, where like if a GM comes in and then McDaniel's fired after 25 because it's like, okay, we're going to bring our own guy in and straighten all this out, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But if it's like you're going to keep McDaniel and then it's going to be like, oh, we're going to fire McDaniel, it's just we keep doing this same cycle. But the person who was at the center of all that every single time back to Ireland was Greer. I'm pretty sure Greer's the one that pushed Ireland out. Then he pushed Hickey out. We know that. Pushed Tannenbaum and Gase out. Pushed Flores out. He's got no one left to push out. He's done. He's got no one left to blame. He's the VP of football operations. Nobody can overstay him except for Ross. He's out. Ross wanted Lamar Jackson at that pick in 2018. He took Minkah Fitzpatrick because nobody wanted to agree between Josh Allen and Baker. So when it got to the pick, he took Minkah. And there was rumor that they didn't want a lot of the guys in the room wanted Derwin James or Vita Vea.
Flores never Jackson.
Wanted Minkah. No, Minkah. Derwin was the better player.
He tried to move him to safety. He tried to move him around.
That's what he should. He didn't want to move around. Derwin James would have loved that role.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is though, like you can't keep doing these half measures where Greer keeps doing the half. Like Greer keeps messing everything up. He's not the guy. He tore it all down to do the same exact thing that every GM
we're worse off now
with him did. Yeah. So like he did all we paid our quarterback, right? Again, we paid Tannehill. It's the same situation. Now we have to wait till 6-7 years to get rid of him. That's bad football. And what I say Sunday, yeah, the Jets suck. The Jets always miss on quarterback, but at least they're swinging at quarterback. They have a better chance of hitting a quarterback. Oh, and by the way, they're looking for a GM and head coach at the same time right now. They cleaned house. Of course, they do that a lot, and Woody Johnson's an idiot.
Didn't the Ravens make Lamar Jackson play on his 5th year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they franchised him.
Then they signed him.
Did he play on a franchise, or was he?
No,
signed
I think
before?
They franchised him, and then they signed him while he was on the franchise.
Yeah.
See, and they had Lamar Jackson. Think about that. They had Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
So, Greg,
and they wanted to pay him. They just
and he won the MVP. They still gave him the 5th year option.
Right, and they wanted to pay him. They just couldn't come to agreement, and Lamar was still willing to play. So he was fully guaranteed for the 5th year, and they let him go on it. So it's like, okay, and they pretty much took care of him. And it's like, okay, we'll take care of it. And Lamar knew it was going to happen because you trust the Ravens front office. You don't trust Greer.
Yeah, but even then, Lamar Jackson was saying, maybe I need to leave Baltimore. And, you know, he said those types of things publicly. But, you know, there's no downside to it. All right. There is a financial benefit to lock a player up after their 3rd year.
Yes.
As a quarterback.
You talked about that
first round pick. Okay. It makes sense because basically you void that 5th year that you're going to have to pay him somewhat market value anyway. Okay. So there is some value to doing that, getting a 3 or 4 year extension out of the way so that after 5 years you can kind of get out of the contract. There is no point in paying it after the 4th year, which is what the Miami Dolphins did, because basically you just guaranteed an extra year or two before you can get out of the contract.
Yep.
All right, and that was the fault of Miami's. All right, and after the third year, you couldn't extend him. All right, after the fourth year, you got to say, okay, yeah, you're playing on your fifth year before we make this decision.
Mhm.
But extending him then, it basically locks you into year 7.
And
And
yeah,
if you extend them after the third year, you're basically locked in until 5 or 6. You gain
right.
that extra year back. It's decisions like this that, again, I say the philosophy is just wrong.
Mhm.
All right, you compound mistakes upon mistakes because you got a bad philosophy.
Yeah.
All right, you don't pick important impact positions early in the draft. You pick non-impact positions early in the draft. What does that do? Even if they're good players, what does that do? That means you got to spend a crap ton of money in free agency or in trades or something like that to get your impact positions.
Or you better
All
hope
right.
that you find a guy like the Lions did, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameer Gibbs, where at least the Lions, yeah, they took a lineman for early, but they still took an edge rusher early, but they found impact players within the draft and free agency with Montgomery. So it's like they're finding impact players and tight ends and stuff. So it's just to add to your point.
But again, that you know, if you find Amon St. Brown, I believe he was a third round pick. Okay,
Yeah. Yep.
that's fortunate.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, you can say it's good drafting and things like that. It's more luck than good. Okay, because
Well, that's true.
you got to get fortunate in certain things like that, right? And draft people will say, well, you can find talent in every round of the draft. Yeah, you can, but the whole point of having the first and second round picks, maybe even early third round picks, is that's where your best players are.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you draft non-impact positions that early, what does that do? That means you have to sign your impact positions later in the draft or in free agency. That usually costs you a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you go down the Dolphins roster, the best players on defense are free agent signings.
Hmm.
Okay, there's not any drafted players that are making a significant deep impact. Your best players on offense, okay, Tua, HN, you got Waddle, but your key player is Hill. It
John.
cost you a lot of money.
Jonnu,
Johnny Smith, free agent.
Teron Armstead.
All right, Teron Armstead, free agent,
Yeah.
a lot of money. All
Okay,
right,
honestly though, if Armstead, we knock him for his injuries, but when he is out there, he is a very good left tackle.
correct.
But
But
An
I also
excellent
not
career.
I knocked
that
him
that
for signing.
Yeah,
that was supposed to be Austin Jackson.
yeah, that was supposed to be Austin
That
Jackson.
was
Exactly.
supposed
Yes,
to be Austin
that's
Jackson.
Greg's point too. Yeah.
And he might be a right tackle. Okay, fine, but that's not why you drafted him. And
Right.
because he couldn't play left tackle, you had to go out and sign him. All right. Now, I didn't agree with the draft pick to begin with because it wasn't a good impact position, in my opinion. All right. That's why you draft Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
But, again, there's this philosophy of how to build a team that just doesn't work, and it hasn't worked.
Mm.
And it hasn't really changed in over a decade.
No.
And to bring somebody in to have the same philosophy isn't going to change Miami's fortunes.
No.
Well, the thing I'll say to that point, though, and I'm not. This is not to say to keep Mike McDaniel, but Mike McDaniel did come in, and his philosophy was not the same as Greer's. Was not the let's take offensive lineman. He is the one that said, hold up on. We don't need to spend a whole bunch of picks on offensive line. We traded picks. You traded away picks for Waddle. We just traded picks for They traded for Tyreek. They're like, we don't need to spend all these money on offensive linemen. We don't need to spend a ton of picks on offensive line.
They should have
We can
stayed at
make it
3.
work with a system. However, where he's still kind of he understands receivers are your impact players. He understands running back, you don't have to draft high, but unless they're that good of a player, You know, like you don't take one in the first round unless they're like a really stud running back.
Unless
You know,
they're
like,
Bijan Robinson or Jimmy.
right? Yeah, those kind of guys you don't take really early, right? So, those guys you do take really early, but the
Yeah.
guys like Achane, you can take where you take them, and then, but he was trying to get Achane, and I think we could argue that Achane was a more premium pick. Well, I guess corner was a premium pick, but it was a wrong player. But like Achane was a premium pick because of how they wanted to use him as a receiver, as a weapon. So you can count that to me as a more of a premium position because you're going to use him as an impact player, right? As a receiver, as a weapon. So more affects the offense more than an offensive lineman. But he's not always making the picks either. He wanted Jalen Wright. They traded up for, so that's a knock on him. He wanted Izukama. That hasn't worked out, but he but he did want Achane, and that's worked out. You know, some of the guys he's wanted have worked out. Patrick Paul was a guy he wanted, and Patrick Paul is probably one of the better. Even though I've been like a little worried about him, Patrick Paul has probably looked the best as a rookie since probably Robert Hunt has. So he's looked pretty good. I don't think I think McDaniel's philosophy is there. I just don't think Greer like gives him much say over like the draft picks and stuff. So I think like I'm not saying McDaniel will be fine. I'm just saying that the philosophy could still change with a different GM. I don't think it stays what Miami's been doing for decades with McDaniel there. I don't think.
But I see.
But culture wise,
I go another way with that. Okay, if drafting Waddle, and signing Hill, taking Malik Washington, players like that.
that was the other one that worked. That was one that McDaniel was supposedly high on.
But did it work? All right. And my question now is, are those the right type of picks for your quarterback?
Nope. Not at all. Not at all.
Well,
he needs a big body receiver.
Hold on, Waddle wasn't McDaniel's pick though. That was before McDaniel, right? So Tyreek was.
Tyreek was his choice.
Well, so no, hang on. See, this is the problem. Tua needed guys that got separation, got Alabama open. Remember? Oh, guys aren't getting open, not getting separation. Now, after Tyreek had a couple of drops because Tua's ball placement has been very sporadic this year, all of a sudden now it's, now we need a big receiver. Now we need a guy who can catch everything. Now, Malik Washington, if you guys have noticed, he does catch a lot of passes. And at Virginia, I think he had the lowest drop rate of all the draft picks.
He had the most receptions and the lowest drop rate in Virginia history.
Right. And of all the draft picks, no one had a lower drop rate than him or the draft prospects. He does catch the ball.
Except on windy punts.
But fielding a punt is already difficult as it is.
They know. But by the way, you know who I put that? That's all on Crossman. That's on Crossman.
Yeah, that was just like he shouldn't even touch that ball.
He should never have touched that ball.
Right. So, but back to Malik Washington has made plays on special teams, and he's made a big play against the Jets. He's made plays. He's been a gadget player. Now, where they drafted him, that fits. And again, that comes to level of talent that they're drafted. That becomes the question for McDaniel and Greer, where the level of talent isn't good enough. I don't think it is. It doesn't seem like it is. That's where I definitely agree with Greg on that. I just think the philosophy focus is McDaniel will be on board with going with impact the premium positions first. However, like Greg's pointed out, I've pointed out, you also are still limiting your talent pool for GMs by keeping your head coach and not firing everybody. We made a mistake when we got the surprise announcement that Flores was fired, and I was waiting for the Greer to get fired announcement. Never got it. And I was like, we're screwed for the next 3 years. And I said it when I was at the Senior Bowl when they weren't really down there. They weren't looking for a head coach rather. And at the time all they had was two guys who had no interest anywhere else for head coach positions, just offensive coordinator positions. And that was all we had really for the talent pool because Dayball ran to the Giants because he worked with a former GM, a former Greer disciple with the Giants. Shocker there. A guy who spent his entire career with Chris Greer getting promoted as he got promoted, and the Giants suck. Shocked that the Giants draft sucked. Oh, same philosophy. Weird. So, like, we missed out on some good coaching candidates and because we had Greer. So, like, it's going to be the same thing this time. We're going to miss out on GM candidates because we're keeping a head coach.
Yeah. So, We're 75 minutes into the show. We're having a great show. We've talked about all this. Let's talk about what's in front of us. So it's likely that Tyler Huntley will
Okay,
start.
season's not over. That's right.
Season's not over, guys. It's not over.
Dive bar.
This
We have
Sunday,
football that matters.
this Sunday, we have a game where we're hoping we're going to have 2 televisions on, literally, to know what's going on between both games. So let's talk about our game first. We're going into MetLife, the takeover, where tons of Dolphin fans will be there.
Wear your Fire Greer shirt.
It's supposed to be. Let me see. What is the temperature going to be in New York? Let's just check this out. I always keep New York on the weather app. So
Delaware is going to be like 30 degrees. I'm just throwing it out there. We're expecting snow tomorrow night.
It's going to be 2 and sunny, which is about 34 degrees. So it's actually going to be decent. It won't be that bad. So heading into MetLife, Aaron Rodgers' possible last game if he plays. The Dolphins need this victory. Tyler Huntley is adapted to the system and gets the system now. If we have the same roster going into against the Jets as we did against the Browns, what is your optimism that the Dolphins can finish the third year in a row, the third year in a row with McDaniel, 5th year in a row with a winning record?
Good, right? Greg.
I think they win on Sunday. I think they win. It'll be their 3rd starting quarterback for Week 17 for McDaniel's 3 years.
Pathetic.
And the thing is Skylar Thompson and Huntley are probably going to be the ones that win both the 2 games.
The 2 games you need, right?
2 lost, last year. So. I think the Jets should win the game, but I think they probably already checked out. I don't think they're going to be taking it seriously unless there are players, and I could probably look this up, but I haven't, that are having some performance bonuses or something like that. But I don't think the Jets are. I don't think the Jets are interested in winning. The Dolphins have something to play for, so I think the Dolphins win. And it wouldn't shock me if they go to Buffalo next week as the 7th seed. That's just who they are, and everybody will celebrate it. And you know what?
We won't.
Well, I'd rather them be in the playoffs than be home. I still want to watch them again, but it's not really going to prove anything. So
our defense has played well against Buffalo. So for that, the funny part is that, to make it clear, our defense has not been the reason why we've lost both times against Buffalo. It's our offense that has sucked against Buffalo. They've never been able to keep up with Josh Allen in the offense, or they make bad turnovers, or they can't drive the ball down the field. They can't keep the ball out of Josh Allen's hands by having sustained drives on the offense. But Greg.
And if you do watch the weather, a polar vortex is supposed to hit like midweek next week, and it's going to be like miserable in Buffalo.
Yeah, the lake effect wins in Buffalo.
Oh, it's going to be.
It is ridiculous. They get it worse than I have it here. Like, it's just because we actually have a lot more stringent rules. Like where I'm from, you actually have to have a certain type of. You have to have snow tires on to handle the winter. From December 1st to March 15th.
Germany was like that.
Or you can get your car booted. You can get your car seizured. You have to have snow tires on.
Yeah, but do you guys have lanes up there?
What do you mean?
Like emergency pull-off spots with the emergency phone and all? Germany had that. I thought that was the most amazing thing. Like where you can pull off at a safe spot and shoulder, call emergency vehicle, they'll come tow it. It's no expense to you.
Yeah,
they come pick it up, tow it to.
And the cool part is AAA's everywhere. Like, we have CAA, which is the same thing as AAA, and they're everywhere. They're honestly everywhere.
That's something really cool I liked in Germany.
So, what do you think, Greg?
It will be funny though if they go to Buffalo and it's below 0 again.
By the way, I will tell you this: I wouldn't start Tua. I start Huntley. At least he's played in the cold. So, Brett, what are your thoughts? What are your expectations with Huntley? Like, is this a game that should be easy for the Dolphins to win, or is this going to be a grind-out, punch-out game where they're going to be on the Dolphin fans are going to be edge of their seat saying, "Oh my God, this is going to be a repeat of what happened in Hard Rock a couple weeks ago"?
I think it's going to be about. I don't know about grind out. It's going to be a close game. It's not going to be lopsided like it was against the Browns, but I think it's going to be closer. But I think it's going to be like a 20-17 kind of game. I don't think it's going to be a 20-19. It's going to be like an ugly score game. It's not going to be aesthetically pleasing to see the score. But I don't think the Dolphins lose this game.
Who gives us a better? But who are you more for? I asked this on Sunday to Bobby and Brett, but Greg, I said I'd rather have Aaron Rodgers play than Tyrod Taylor. So who would you rather be at quarterback on Sunday? Like I said, I'd rather have Tyler Huntley against Aaron Rodgers than Tua Tagovailoa at 80% against Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. I kind of want to see Aaron Rodgers play just because I like dunking on him, and if he plays bad again.
He's kind of a douche. Like I don't feel bad for him at all.
Two best years of his career. He had 2 beautiful years in New York.
I don't feel bad for him at all because like he was a great quarterback and it's everybody else's fault. It's ridiculous.
He's the best quarterback I've ever seen play. I'll say that. He had like 2 or 3 years in a row where he was just unbelievable. I mean, with accuracy, with touch, with power, drive, using his legs. I mean, he was phenomenal for a couple of years. And I really enjoyed watching him play. Now he's just a guy. All right. And it's father time and it's an injury.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's what it is. But no, I think if Huntley plays as well as he did in Cleveland, they can win this game. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be ugly because Miami's offense is ugly.
Right.
There's no. I mean, Cleveland was ugly. Cleveland was still only a 1-score game or a 10-point game. Yeah, I mean, it's just they play ugly football. That's how they win. They got to rely on their defense, and it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, talking about the other game, the number one concern is the Chiefs in 2020. The Brian Flores and the Miami Dolphins did the Kansas City Chiefs a huge solid and beat the Patriots when it didn't matter to the Dolphins because they had blown the game before that against the Titans, and they beat the Patriots to give the Chiefs the number 1 seed. Now, all hail to the Dolphins from Andy Reid. Is there any motivation for the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Broncos? Because if I'm them, I want the Broncos to win because the Broncos have a good chance of actually – because if we expect the Dolphins to win, the Bengals can't get in. The moment we win, the Bengals are out. The Bengals need us to lose and for the Broncos to lose.
Right. Yeah.
I think any team – Buffalo does not want to see the Bengals. But I think the team they want to see the most is the Dolphins. So is there any – inkling that the Chiefs can it's the only way I believe the only way the Broncos can lose this is if Bo Nix loses it for them by having a rookie moment with that kind of pressure.
It's still an Andy Reid coach team. They are 3-0 week 18, and that's with the backup quarterback one of those weeks. We'll say that.
What are your thoughts on the Chiefs? Is it a gimme that the Broncos are going to win, or the Chiefs actually because they can't sit everybody?
No.
So I 70-30. I think it's 70-30, 70% chance that the Broncos win.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, you're going to sit Kelsey.
We're more the realistic. You're good.
Yeah, we're here. We got you.
But they're not going to play Mahomes, and Mahomes is legit hurt. He shouldn't play this game, right? Yeah. Kelsey needs to sit. Chris Jones, unless he has some kind of incentive that he's trying to hit, isn't going to play.
Kareem Hunt's playing, though. I'm happy with Kareem Hunt playing.
Yeah, Kareem. I mean, Creed probably shouldn't play.
Xavier Worthy will play. They're not going to sit Worthy.
No, but
Noah Gray will play. Noah Gray's a capable tight end. I take Noah Gray as my TN too.
Well, and you have no idea what Carson Wentz is going to do. All right.
And Carson Wentz, he's had times where he was very good quarterback.
No, they can Kansas City can put enough on the field to play with Denver. Mm-hmm. The question is, do they even want to? All right. I mean, the NFL mindset is, there's nothing to play for. We're a bunch of backups. Let's go out and have fun. Unless there's incentives involved, unless there's money involved,
Yeah.
they really don't have a whole lot to play for. I think it was last year, Chris Jones in the final game of the year needed like a sack and a half to hit his incentives, so he played until he got the sack and a half. I mean,
Yeah.
it just that's and it made him like an
And
extra $1 million, right?
And that's
I
why
mean,
it's in there.
and that's why it's in there. But if there are those things like that, then they got a 30% chance of winning. If not, they're not going to.
The only way, I mean, unless Carson Wentz is playing for a starting job somewhere else. He's got a cozy job right now as a backup quarterback.
Well, Chad Henne did very well for himself. And by the way,
Absolutely.
that's why I believe in Andy Reid. Andy Reid will never just lose a game. So Andy
no.
Reid, you have to remember this. My memory, one of my most fondest memories of watching Chiefs games was when Mahomes got injured, got hurt for a series. Chad Henne was literally on his 3 and went 97 yards.
Yeah,
Because in a Andy Reid
right
designed offense, Alex Smith looked like a star.
Do you remember Andy Reid in Philly when he had McNabb go down the run to the Super Bowl? They won with their third string quarterback. Their second string quarterback ended up getting hurt in the playoffs. They won with the backup quarterback.
Yeah.
They had a good defense and all that, but their offense still moved the football efficiently enough. And because Andy Reid coaches a good football team. Andy Reid, what you'll see out of him is no different than you'll see out of with Mahomes. There'll be different play calls for the guys, obviously, but he understands that he's still giving them everything they need, right? He's still going to coach them up for their reps because he wants them ready in any situation like we just talked about. So I think that I do think the Chiefs lose this game. I just don't think it's going to be like it's definitely no guarantee that the Broncos walk in to win this game, especially with a rookie quarterback. And Spagnuolo, he's not going to. Don't tell him no different. He's going to coach the same way.
Well, yeah, and it's you, as a coach with the number 1 seed, you don't take chances. If somebody's this nicked up, sit down. All right.
Yeah.
You know, and things like that. So, is Kansas City's B team capable of beating Denver?
It would kill Miami.
Yeah, but you know, it's just
I'll take their B team.
Well, they got a lot of talent on the team, and maybe it is, but you know, Denver has everything to play for. Kansas City has nothing to play for.
Yeah,
wouldn't that be awesome for the Dolphins to have nothing to play for?
They could have a few times.
Look,
let's just lose 5 in a row, 2 seasons in a row.
the only way, all right, and I don't know how far out I'm going on this, but you know, the only way the Dolphins win with a Super Bowl in their current makeup and their current setup is they have to have the number 1 seed. They have to play at home.
Yeah.
Okay, they have to play at home, which means you got to figure out some way of you know, winning the AFC East from Josh Allen, who basically beats you like a drum every time.
We need Josh. We need that year when Matt Castle had to play quarterback, and Brady got injured for us to win the division. That is the next time we'll win the division. When Josh Allen gets injured, we'll win the division.
And I joked where I said, like, one of the only chances we have is if we get a lucky draw, get the Colts the first round, and then the Texans in the next round. But how many dome teams in the AFC?
Yeah, there's not many.
No.
Not many.
Right. I mean, that's you know,
the Jaguars in the championship.
The only fastest, Greg, is if we're in the division like we're supposed to be with the Falcons, the Jaguars, and the Bucks.
No, we're supposed to be AFC South, I thought. Either way.
But that should be our division. Our division should be the Florida team and the Georgia team.
Something, man. Something. That was Wayne Huizinga saying it.
What a moron that guy was. God rest his soul. But, guys, we're almost over an hour, 90 minutes into it. If win, lose, or draw, Greg, if we win, does that guarantee the return of both in your mind? If we lose, okay, how about this? I'm going to put it to you multiple ways. If we win and make the playoffs, are we safe? If we win and don't make the playoffs, is everybody safe? if we lose and don't make the playoffs, who are safe. Is all three going to lead to the same answer, or are there different answers based on Sunday's result in your mind?
I think all three lead to the same answer. I think everybody's back. I do not see them making them any moves. They have too many built-in excuses this year for them not performing the way they were.
Not
And-
Chris Greer.
Well, I think they're going to all become back. I really do. And
Brett, what are your thoughts? Like, do you really believe all three situations lead to the same result, will lead to the same path?
It really feels like no matter what, somebody's coming back. I don't think they're cleaning house. I feel like a blowout loss to the Jets, they end up losing, or they end up maybe Greer get fired. Missing the playoffs is the only way somebody gets fired. That's it. A win, whether playoffs or not, I think everybody's safe. Especially an emotional win, because Ross did it with Philbin after the Vikings game. Philbin's coming back next year, and then fired him out. Forgot how many games into the season. 4 games into the season? He didn't make the trip back from Europe. And now I will say every coach that he's extended next year was fired. So I don't even know.
If you could read into the future, sort of like how there was a flight left Japan and landed in the States, and the person went from 2025 to 2024. How cool is that? Imagine you're flying and it's 2025 and you land and it's 2024. You still get to celebrate New Year's twice. How cool is that?
That's
right.
wild.
That's really, really cool. But be honest with me, because I will be the one to give you the true honesty on this one for sure. If you knew that on Monday that losing the game on Sunday meant that they clean house on Monday, or winning on Monday led you to a playoff game in Buffalo, be honest. You're a fan. You have the right to fan the way you want, Brett and Greg. What would you prefer? Do you want the win and the playoff game, or do you want the loss and the clean house?
Well,
clean house.
Yeah, I want a clean house, but let's preface this. It doesn't mean we're rooting for losing, because I'm always rooting for wins. If we were to win, I'm rooting for us to win either way. And if we were to make the playoffs, I'm obviously rooting to win. But I want a clean house, because I know what's going to happen at the end of the day. We're just delaying the inevitable, and we're just going to end up being one of those things, just to be okay. We're going to end up getting blown out in the playoffs. Holy crap, Adam Gase got blown out in the playoffs. Who cares? We keep losing round one like we don't belong. It's because we don't belong, to be honest with you. We keep sneaking into the playoffs in wild card. And the most convincing we made the playoffs was 2008. We won the division, the last game of the year against the Jets. And then when we locked in a playoff spot against Dallas to go and lose every game until the playoffs after that. So it's the best thing to do is clean house, because it's the same thing for the 2019 tanking, because of the future, not because of the right now. I don't care about the loser right now. It is what it is. But I'm telling you this right now. If everybody is back next year, 2025
Arch Manning
will be a wasted year, and we will be looking at Arch Manning, Lenore Sellers, Drew Allard.
When's Arch Manning going to start? If Ewers is a junior, when does Arch Manning start?
Remember, Steve Sarkisian likes okay quarterbacks. That's why he loved Tua.
Yeah, but let me ask you though, when does Arch Manning get to start?
Well, I made the comment yesterday to I think I put on X that it's hard to root for Texas when they play their second best quarterback.
Yeah.
Nothing against Quinn Ewers, because he was supposed to be highly rated, but he's an okay quarterback. But Arch Manning is living. It's beyond just his name. He's a good quarterback.
He gives them a better chance to beat Ohio State than Ewers.
Every time Arch Manning's in the game, the level of excitement goes up because the level of play goes up.
Yeah,
and they look best when Ewers was injured and Manning had to play.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm laughing. I'm with them.
See, this is the network. By the way, is that wonderful brother? Which brother is that? That's
the youngest one. That's Matt.
That's
the security guard. Yeah.
The guy who makes me look small. Okay, just want to make sure.
Yes.
Is he a Notre Dame fan?
Oh, absolutely.
So he was watching the game too?
Absolutely. We were all texting each other. Absolutely.
When I was in Indiana a few years ago, I just remember seeing all the D1, like all the signs for college football. I was in a college area. I was just outside of Indianapolis at Whitestown. I'm like, this is feels like home. It's like it's country, but it's like football. Like this is awesome. I'm in the Midwest. My wife's from Ohio. I'm like, I love this. Hey, but the thing, I can't see anything positive happening and everybody coming back. And with the Arch Manning, I'm like thinking to myself, I joke with my buddy because he toured Texas Stadium because he went down there for a trip and he got to tour it. And I was like, did you see future Dolphin great Arch Manning? And we just had a laugh about it. I'm like, but 2026 class is fantastic, potentially. And Drew Lohr, I don't know why everybody's like knocking him. He's got a ton of talent. You just got to clean up some of his issues. And I think I'm telling you right now, Lenore Sellers, I think is going to be it's going to be very good.
Yeah, but no, honestly though, if you think about it, can you just imagine how is he going to defend himself next week? He cannot go up to these beat writers who have been ripping him to shreds. The man gets booed. The guy literally has been a hermit all season. When sometimes you do see him coming on the sideline, Greer cannot defend himself this season. He can't blame the injuries anymore because he's had injuries for 3 consecutive years, and this year is no different.
No, he's had injuries back in 2016, 17, 18, 19. If you look at the injury list, it was always, well, this player's injured, that player. It's always that.
It's no fault.
I think he tried to do Teflon Don when he said, "Oh, this is a transition year." Transition from what?
From what?
But if I'm Greer, okay, and God help me if I ever am Greer, all right. He can say, look at the defense I patched together. They're a top 5 unit in the NFL. All right. If Tua doesn't get hurt, all right, we're in the playoffs. We get in the playoffs, and anything can happen.
Yeah.
All right. But he's going to he's going to point to and say, look at all the moves I made to improve this defense. Look at everything that happened. You ripped me for getting rid of Christian Wilkinson. All right. You ripped me for getting rid of Van Ginkel. My defense is better.
Van Ginkel is what I would
say. No one's replaced Van Ginkel.
He replaced Wilkins, though. He did replace Wilkins.
All right, but
with Calais Campbell, how deep into the free agent pool did he have to go? And honestly, he got him for a gimme. And
but again,
he was friends with McDaniel. He's known him since high school.
Again, you can say, look, our defense is better now because of all of these moves that I made.
None that you drafted.
Yeah. None that you drafted, Chop.
Fantasy football.
Oh, and Greg, look at all the injuries on defense, and first year of Weaver's system.
Correct.
After I had to butt heads with Fangio. Fangio didn't want to see it my way, even though the guy I signed that Fangio said wasn't good enough was cut, and Weaver benched him, and then we ended up cutting him anyway. But he'll say, like, here's a rebuttal to it that should be said, and you're right, Greg. That's probably what he'll do because he's a snake like that. What I would say in rebuttal is like, okay, then why the hell did you let Van Ginkel walk without an offer? If he turned it down, I can't blame you because you tried. Because money can talk, especially tax-free in Florida, right? So income tax-free. So then you got, okay, well, why did you rely on Phillips and Chubb? Chubb was coming back from a knee injury at the end of the year. You relied on him coming back. And you relied on Phillips coming back that takes a calendar year, and he got hurt again. Like, why are you relying on this?
But look how much better we are without them. And when they come back, all right, we're going to even get better.
Yeah, and then
everything's pointing up.
But Chubb, you got to cut or restructure to open cap space. So it's like, what are we doing here? So, like, you're right, though. He always has a built-in excuse, and we have an owner who's like, I'll spin it, use the media, spend money to spin it to make a lot more money because people are going to buy the false hope because we're Dolphin fans. We know this. By draft season, we signed every best free agent there ever was. And every draft pick's a future Pro Bowler.
But if you on how many shows, guys, before you go, Greg, if Chris Greer is back, we don't have a first-round pick. He'll trade it.
No, probably.
He'll trade it for an elite player.
But if
he'll trade it for Crosby.
If
more defense.
I'm okay.
If the Dolphins don't make the playoffs,
you trade Crosby for a first.
Not a first. I'd trade for him though.
He would trade him for a first.
I'd go get Crosby though because he's a hell of a football player.
Oh, for sure. For a second, not for a first.
Yeah.
But if the Dolphins don't make the playoffs and Monday they have the year-end recap press conference and things like that, I'd be willing to bet that's what you're going to hear. Look at the defense we put together, put on the field. We finished top 5.
Oh, and the offensive line injuries. Don't forget that.
If Tua gets we're a couple pieces away from this thing taking off.
Yep.
Your guards are healthy all season. Don't give me that. Your guards are healthy all season.
No. We lost our right tackle, and our left tackle couldn't stay consistent.
Those are not guards. His beautiful undrafted free agent Robert Jones and his stout third-round pick from South Bend, Indiana, from the Fighting Irish, Liam Eichenberg. This is why Greg.
I love.
I've always said that the safest picks. If you need a DB and you're in the draft, take somebody from Ohio State, take somebody from Alabama. If you need an offensive line, take somebody from Notre Dame. All right,
or Wisconsin.
I've always said that Wisconsin.
Iowa.
Those types of places. Okay, and the Dolphins do that, and they get Liam Eichenberg, and you're just like, crap.
That's why I wanted to say on the dive bar. Shout out to Adam Gase or Ghost of Adam Gase because he says leave it to the Dolphins to find the one guy ever from Notre Dame on the offensive line.
You look at Notre Dame offensive linemen. All right, they're all over. They're starting all over the NFL. All right. And the one guy who probably shouldn't be starting is starting for the Dolphins.
And the thing is, they're at least serviceable starters. I don't even know if he's a serviceable starter at this point.
I mean,
and
they're
none
all
of them,
over the place.
Yeah, and how many were traded up for?
Correct.
Oh God! But that's the Dolphins. It to me. And the thing is, when you said that is, and you're not saying, oh, well, that DB went to Ohio State, so he's clearly better. But like that. Those are the schools you typically look at, or wide receiver with Ohio State because of how well they're coached. However, I think Greer's a lazy drafter, though. I've done it before. He's only drafted 2-3 players in the first 3 rounds outside of the Power 5.
Yeah, he only goes to the Power 5.
That's lazy. And Robert Hunt was one of his best ones, and it's lazy. That means Khalil Mack he probably wouldn't have touched. You believe that? Khalil Mack was a man against boys. Like he played for Buffalo, but he was bullying Ohio State offensive linemen like they were just middle schoolers and having himself a day against Ohio State. And Greer would have looked at him and said, yeah, but he didn't play for a big-time program. I don't want him. Josh Allen didn't play for Power 5. I don't want him. Like, what are we doing here? So, to me, that's bad GMing right there. You're not looking everywhere for talent.
Yeah. So, guys, who dropped the link? I don't know who did. Oh. Someone may have dropped the link. I don't think I did that. Oops. Someone wants to come on. Or I can...
Well, I was about to say, I thought we were going to wrap up.
Yeah, we are going to wrap up. I didn't actually do that. I think. You know what I think happened? I think that maybe Bobby tried to do it on his show and maybe dropped it. I don't know what he did there, but oops. Yeah. I can't even get rid of it. Anyways, guys, we're almost at the end of the show. You guys both predict wins. I'll give my prediction on Sunday night. You're both welcome to join us on the post-game show. Make yourself available. You're welcome on our post-game show. I'm inviting you in advance to come on our post-game show after the Dolphins probably beat the Jets. Oh, you're not going to try nothing. You'll be there.
It's the last game. Let's sleep anyway. I go back to work Monday or Sunday, but whatever.
Exactly. Anyways, guys, we appreciate you watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You want to dose of reality, come to Finch Talk Overtime. We always go overtime on our shows. We don't take 45 minutes. We take 2 hours because there's always so much to talk about here. We'll always give you the real truth here. No more bandwagon nonsense, even though we want our team to win.
And we still have a bandwagon show,
that means Greer and McDaniel get fired. That's okay. And you know what's amazing? I went the entire show without ripping McDaniel. That is my New Year's resolution.
You had a couple windows.
I know. I had a couple windows, and I didn't do it. And I'm pretty amazed by myself, guys.
Oh, my resolution is to be the same a-hole I am every year. So
no, true.
I do that every year.
You're no a-hole to me. You converted me. So Rifleman, Elder, Horizon, DSG, who always shows up, Sackman.
Yes, guys.
72 Dolphin, Cliff D, Dive Bar, who we all love. We're still waiting for our invite. Bobby, who's doing his show. So, guys, if once you're done this show, cross over to East 10th Street Boys, who's also what's happening right now on the Finstock Sports Network. Please like and subscribe. We're trying to get to our 2,000 subscriber.
Yeah.
Donald, everyone, Mr. Success. So I just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody.
And those
Don't forget
guys
to like
are
and
more
subscribe.
positive, but they're more realistic in a more polite way.
Yeah, right. They're talking Miami Heat. They're talking Miami Heat choking.
Oh,
all good.
jeez.
It's all good. Guys, don't forget to subscribe, and always, fins up, go
Fins
Dolphins.
up.